any point on recording, please let me know.
Okay. Very well. Shall we start, Gustavo?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Perfect. So good morning to all of you who are in Brazil. Good evening to those who are joining us from Australia. Bom dia a todos aqui que estão conosco aqui no Brasil. E boa noite que está conosco da Austrália. I'm very happy to chair this panel session with the privileged dignitaries. And the topic of our discussion today is education for sustainability, which is so important in such critical times. We are witnessing, especially amidst COP26, a lot of expectations from world leaders, from countries, and also amidst geopolitical confusions, considering that we are seeing transition of world leaders with different political ideologies, which are directly and indirectly linked with sustainability and how it encourages educational institutions to enact their mission to integrate sustainability into their institutional practices. Not to forget, and I think it is worth mentioning, this topic is very central to us because to some extent, educational institutions and universities were also victims of political ideology. And when it comes to sustainability, we know that sustainability could be treated from different dimensions. And at some point of time, it is a very technical issue when it comes to certain metrics of climate change. When it comes to social issues, it takes a whole different narrative. It's about social inclusion. It's about racial diversity. So the point which I'm trying to mention here is that the topic of sustainability itself is so wide that it has compelled us as business schools to tackle this issue from different approaches, as much as the side from the culture, from politics, from race, from climate change to emissions. It has to be treated from all the dimensions. So I think it would be an honor to hear the perspectives from you, considering that all of you come from different regions of the world, and to hear the insights, considering the contextual realities which your universities bring in when it comes to tackling to this agenda. I will be starting our presentation with Professor Geraldine because she has the honor to be in the time zone much more farther than us, as it's night there. So I want to start with her, and then we can move on to our Brazilian counterparts who are still fresh after their coffee and waiting to hit the lunchtime. So I'll then go to Professor Antonio. We are from the same institution, but different entities. So it would be a pleasure to hear from you. And then moving on to Alessandra, who is joining us from EMED Business School from south of Brazil. So Professor Geraldine, over to you.
Thank you so much, Umesh, and nice to meet you, Antonio and Alessandra, and those that are with us today. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I stand here in central Melbourne, in the CBD, and it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respect to their elders, past and present. I'll share my screen. I've only got a couple of slides to share. Actually, okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. For those that don't know me, I'm the director of the MBA program at LaTrobe University in Melbourne, Australia. It's 1 a.m. in the morning, or a little bit after 1 a.m. in the morning here. Thank you very much for having me at this CR3 conference. And you may be aware that we hosted the conference, when was it? Probably 2 years ago. And also my MBA students play a very active role in the conference. In 2019, they evaluated some components of the conference, and this year I've had two MBA students present papers. We have sustainability embedded in throughout the MBA, and in fact in the business school it's a major component of what we deliver. It's across all subjects, be it in case studies, be it the philosophy of the teachers. So I thought what I would do today is to actually start not from the content that we deliver, because of course, as you mentioned, Umesh, that sustainability is, you know, a wide-ranging topic. I actually want to talk about more the how, and go even beyond the pedagogy of the way that we teach, to look at sustainability through the lens of pedagogy. So what do I mean by that? Well, pedagogy is a teaching practice, or the way we teach, or what we actually teach, whereas pedagogy is student-centered instructional strategy that emphasizes the development of autonomy and self-determination of the individual learner's capability building. So what it does is it develops self-efficacy, or our own understanding of our effectiveness or knowledge in the area of sustainability, or our worth throughout that, but also enables us to self-reflect. So what have we learned? How do we learn it? And how might we apply it, particularly across all those range of contexts, as we understand sustainability, or even going beyond that to how do you grasp the whole 17 UN Sustainability Development Goals, and what that means for you and your work and life practice. But also it develops critical thinking. So using pedagogy develops those innate skills where it's unique maybe to a situation that you might be teaching at the time, but learners can then apply these skills across a number of environments. So that the learner then reflects on how they can apply what they've learned in a new context, new environment, and how it affects their own personal values and beliefs. So why use this approach in sustainability education? Well, business, governments and community require people who have self-determination, efficacy and critical thinking to come up with creative ways of solving our sustainability problems. And in this way, the learners are a major part of finding those sustainability solutions. Also, because sustainability is so wide-ranging and it's changing consistently, it's really important that we have people that can think on their feet and react and adapt and make decisions as well. So pedagogy gives us the skills in order to do that. But then what does that actually mean for us in educators or institutions that are custodians of developing its capability and competency in our world today? Well, I want to look at that through a combination of ways of delivering the pedagogy through our learning practice, starting with the learner at the centre of our approach to teaching, where they self-determine their learning by exploring. And in other words, they find their own way of making sense and meaning. What we need to do is enable that environment and enable the resources in which they can do that exploration. So it assumes the learner also comes with some knowledge and skills, but collectively they're able to then build on that, that capability and capacity. That then leads into that shared learning environment, or learners working collaboratively to co-develop their learning, be it in the classroom or broader across the institution, and build something together. One of the ways in which this could happen in a practical sense is looking at an inquiry-based learning approach, where the teams identify problems and then try and solve those. One of the practices that I've used throughout the MBA, particularly with a partnership that we have with Sheffield Hallam University, we're working virtually with students across disciplines and with small business to develop or uncover their problems and develop solutions for that, we use a design thinking framework. And this framework could also be used for us to uncover our sustainability problems, trying to solve the right problem with the right solution. So the inquiry-based process supports that pedagogy by giving the students a guideline through a design thinking format. And then they can take an integrative approach. So that means not just forming connections with their cohort of students they're learning with, but also the broader network that they reach out with, having real life projects, for example. And in that way, they can build the social capital and networks beyond their collective and build a shared understanding of sustainability and develop the whole sustainability practice. And lastly, but not least, having reflective learning as a part of the framework enables the students or learners to foster a self-learning and self-evaluation where they reflect on their capability development and the goals that they may have set themselves in terms of their learning, and they self-assess, potentially also peer assess whether they have actually achieved those. So I think key to sustainability education is allowing the learner to define their own success. I'd like to leave it at that, and I'm happy for us to have a look at this in more detail when we move into the discussion format, and maybe in terms of some of the challenges and implications of using this kind of approach for sustainability education. Thank you. I'll stop sharing my slides now.
Fantastic, Professor. Thank you so much for these interesting insights and really challenging our, I would say, mindset to think about new terms. And I must confess that I came across it as the first time, moving beyond pedagogy to pedagogy. Professor Antonio, you are the provost of one of the most important institutions in Brazil, Fundação Getúlio Vargas. We would very much like to hear your insights on how FCB is leading this agenda of innovating or educating for sustainability.
Thank you very much. And I'm very proud to be with all of you. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I am trying to make a small presentation. Based on the fact that the sustainability is a broad field, so it's very, you can have different views because it's so broad and so new. And I prefer to take the place from the common man, the common person, and share with you my afflictions of what's happened these days. Our planet is under attack. You have so many problems: climate change, deforestation, pollution, loss of biodiversity, overpopulation, oil, overfishing, and so on and so forth. So our planet is under attack. So we should try to do anything. And some countries, including Brazil, we may not be doing everything that we should. Can education meet this challenge? Is it worthwhile to invest in the education? Education for sustainability develop the knowledge, the skills, values, and worldviews necessary for people to act in ways that contribute to more sustainable patterns of living. It enables individuals and communities to reflect on ways of interpreting and engaging with the world, sustainability education is future-oriented. And this is quite important, future-oriented, because we are almost in the deadline, focusing on protecting environments and creating a more ecologically and socially just world through informed action. Actions that support more sustainable patterns of living require consideration of environmental, social, cultural, and economic systems in their interdependence. Why is education important for sustainability? Why is education important for sustainability? Provided the right information and education can change people's values and behavior, encouraging them to adopt sustainable lifestyles. Sometimes the children teach the parents because they have the right behavior, and the parents change the way they live. And we could saw in Amazon people destroying part of the forest and hunting, and through education, the people, the Indians, they changed their view because they thought that really conserving the forest was better for them. It can also break the cycle of poverty, malnutrition that affects many in the world. Malnutrition, poverty, affect so many people. Through education, we can surpass this challenge. Why is sustainable investment important? Why sustainable investment is important? We have this problem in America. We have this problem in Europe. We have this problem in Brazil. And a few days ago, in this area that is protected by nature and is protected by law, was offered for exploring oil in Brazil. It is an island of Fernando de Noronha, and is supposed to have oil in this area, but it's protected. It's a rich environment. And what happened? Well, it was offered to the companies to explore oil in this area. And no company offered 1 cent to invest in this area because they knew that if they tried to invest to explore oil in this area, they should have enormous problems with the people that protect the environment. So investing is shaping the reality. All investment we do, when we buy certain products, when we invest in some companies, we are shaping the reality. So we should be very careful about that. When you buy one product that explore women, explore children, explore deforestation, we are responsible for that. So investing is shaping the reality. It can deliver returns with less risk. So sustainable investment is about investing in progress, and recognizing that solving the world's biggest challenge can be best positioned to grow. There is no conflict between growth and sustainability. Actually, they go hand to hand. They act together. You can grow and be sustainable. And this is a long-range view. It will soon become the world's widely accepted way of investing. So in the near future, very near future, nobody will want to invest in companies or in projects that damage the environment, because this will be a huge cry from all over the planet. We have so many possibilities of sustainable investments opportunities. So there are so broad investments. For instance, green power investments, water stocks, wind power, solar energy, pollution control, green transportation, waste reduction, organics, And for instance, Brazil and Australia have enormous potential of renewable energy, like solar energy, wind power. So I think Brazil, Australia, and many other countries should have a bright future in terms of renewable energy. We don't need to pollute, to create problems to the planet, because we have a tremendous potential of protecting the environment and using renewable energy. The business education is undergoing a shift away from teaching traditional, maximizing shareholders' value. Until, even the books that we use today, the financial books, they mention only in maximizing shareholder values. In the way of Milton Friedman, given that you pay taxes, the government should do the job. But actually, it's not the right way. Instead, there is an appetite among students to shift from only the shareholders' value to more efficient ways of investing. The students know that some of the biggest challenge of all times is the environment. I like this quote from Robert Swan. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. Well, China will save Brazil. Eventually, Australia will save America. Or America will save China. Well, this is a big mistake, that someone will save us. I want to finish with this idea that's not mine, that together we can save the planet. We need to work together. And the time is moving very fast. This is the day. This is the day that we can change and make our choice when we buy, when we invest, because together we can do our job. We can help to save the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for sharing different insights. And I really like this perspective of common man which you bring, because especially in emerging economies, day-to-day life of common man is filled up with a lot of paradoxes. And the person doesn't have a choice to often think in a conscious way, even if he or she wants to think in a conscious way. So I think your presentation brings in all these insights at multiple layers, from individual level till institutional level, what kind of actions are needed. And with this, I think the stage is set for Alessandra, who is joining us from south of Brazil. And if I'm not mistaken, Alessandra, Professor, you are also a coach for senior leaders. So perhaps you might also have some insights of how senior leaders deal with their sustainability agenda, and how do you see this interaction of education for sustainability at your business school, or when you're interacting with senior leaders to whom you are mentoring or coaching? Can you hear us, Alessandra?
Seems like she's gone offline.
Let me see. Just give her a minute to see if she's able to come back. Você está nos ouvindo, Alessandra?
Well, you're trying to contact her. I'll have a chat to Antonio if you like. Antonio, I definitely agree with you. It's almost as though we need this kind of motto around it's up to me, it's up to us as individuals to make the conscious decisions to support all of the various dimensions across our sustainability, from social, environmental to economic sustainability. So I really like that key quote that you pulled out there.
Thank you, Geraldine. And your presentation was also very, very nice. Umesh has the hard job of connect all of us, even with the technology, not helped sometimes.
Yes,
But,
it's hard.
I think we have a responsibility when we buy something. We should care where these clothes came from, who did these clothes, what. So we have a responsibility. If each one of us do our job a little bit, but together we can make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess. Well,
Alessandra, can you hear us?
Sorry, my connection is bad. In my book, the use of eco bags, of plastic bags, and reducing the use of paper in the different practices, such as the delivery of final courses assignment behind electronic only. É isso.
Okay, great. So I would like to hear kind of challenge the panel members to bring in some more regional insights, because I saw Professor Geraldine started with paying honors to the people of the land, and Professor Antonio also speaking about native Indians in Amazon. How far do you think when we talk about education, there is also a good chunk of indigenous knowledge which can address sustainability issues. Do you think that kind of knowledge is somehow addressed or should be addressed? We can start from Professor Geraldine and then to Professor Antonio and then to Alessandra.
Yes, absolutely. Now our governments are reaching out to our Indigenous communities, particularly the elders within those communities, to help us with the management of our water, which has large implications here in Victoria and New South Wales, as we have a main river that flows between our two states that supports everything from agriculture right through to water sustainability in our cities. So that had been managed by our Indigenous populations for millions of years before us, and now they're starting to draw on their expertise when they're putting together, water plans, for example. Our bushfires is another classic example. Just before COVID hit, we were hit with very, very severe bushfires throughout. Again, that similar area actually between New South Wales and Victoria. And it's after this crisis that they've then realised that we need to go to our Indigenous populations and say, how did you manage the land? How should we manage the land? But their knowledge has been brought down from generation to generation through stories. Sorry, Antonio, before we go to that, it's strange. I actually thought about this when you were speaking, and I realise it's actually another Indigenous framework. I taught a group of Aboriginal public servants in Victoria about leadership, and they came up with this framework using that pedagogy methodology that I talked about earlier. I essentially gave them all the resources around values-based leadership, and they came up with this framework as a way to manage or way to lead manage change. But it's the part that I want to talk about on here is that the way that Indigenous people want to lead their whole way of life, which sustainability is embedded. It's not an add-on. It's not something that we need to do as an end goal. It's actually incorporated in everything. So they envisage this passion around what the work they do, enable, empower, and engage. But what I wanted to pick out here is these elements around this Indigenous drawing is that decision-making framework that you were talking about, Antonio. When you make a decision as a leader, you think about the sustainability and the community first. That is first and foremost, as an individual, as an organisation, and as a community. You think about equity and diversity. You think about innovation and culture and ethics and integrity. So this is kind of ingrained in the way of they make decisions, not as something that's seen as an additional capability. Does that make sense, or does it answer your question that you're asking, Umesh?
Fantastic. No, definitely, definitely. This is really interesting. Professor Antonio, would you like to build on that?
Yes. There is a big discussion, at least in Brazil, about the amount of land that you should share with the natives. No? Because actually they have a large, very large amount of land. And for some people, they think this is too much. But actually, the natives are the ones that really protect the nature. The natives, they protect all the forest, because the forest is their home. They protect the home. Okay, so you may agree or not, but the natives, they protect the home. And I was president of the Brazilian Commission of Education for some time, and we have laws that about the environment that we everybody from the basic school to doctoral programs, we should discuss sustainability, we should discuss all these issues. But actually, I can see almost nothing being done. Very little, okay? For instance, in Umesh's school, they have a group of people that discusses sustainability, a good group, maybe the best in Brazil, but this is something different. So we should put more emphasis on sustainability throughout the education, not in one subject, but should be all subjects. How can you also, like Geraldine put, the ethics, for instance, how can you teach finance without discussing ethics? How can you teach marketing without discussing ethics? So also ethics should be a subject that cross all education, because this is a way that we could change the minds and souls of people. Okay, and the same sustainability. We should begin with the little kids in basic education. But we cannot wait until these kids be in the doctoral program. So we should begin with them, but as soon as possible, to put in the finance class, in marketing class, in all classes, we should discuss also sustainability. There is no sense only on return on investment, because we are moving the direction of the United States, where 99% of the population have 1% of the resources, and 1% of the population have 99% of the money. So this is not fair. We want to move to a fair planet where we can share our knowledge, our resources with everybody. It's not fair that we leave Africa without vaccine, because it may happen that will appear a new kind of COVID, and everybody is going to suffer. So we should be more sensitive to the needs of other people. And when we make our decision of buying and investing, a little bit, each one of us is a little bit, but when we act together, billions of people acting together is an immense power, is a big power. And we should make it touch the heart of the people only through education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. I had here Alessandra, who also wanted to share her perspectives about the accreditation criteria, because essentially what you were speaking from the National Education Commission is about how can different institutional actors enact the change and force institutions to start integrating in their institutional mechanisms. Alessandra, would you like to share your insights from that?
Yeah, yes. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. I will talk about National MBA Association role in promoting education for sustainability in MBAs. ANAMBA is the first and the only quality accreditor of MBA courses in Brazil. Our mission is to contribute to the excellence of the Master of Business Administration market courses in Brazil, developing quality parameters that guide their structuring and offer. And the goals of the association are market information about quality and offer, helping candidates, benchmarking and reference. Accredited schools, ESPM, FECAP, FIA Business School, INSPER, FGV-ISP, IMED, and Sampo. Affiliate schools, Unigran Rio, and schools in the process of affiliation, FACAM. Accreditation criteria. Here, I will only talk about sustainable criteria, institutional ethics and consistency. ANAMBA's debate, innovation and sustainability in agribusiness, aiming to spread ANAMBA's MBA courses quality criteria. We hold monthly online events about the theme represented in our ANAMBA's criteria. Like in our last October event, where we talk about innovation and sustainability in agribusiness with our guests, the former Minister Francisco Tura and Dr. Marcus Junk from INSPER. And accreditation criteria. One of the criteria to obtain the ANAMBA accreditation quality seal is called ethics and institutional consistency. The school's values must be experienced in the course. Some examples are expected to follow as the one quoted below. Emphasizing equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Respecting diversity, other practices, process, and objects that seek to make the world a better place for everyone and that demonstrates zeal for institutional reputation. In addition, the MBA contents must include sustainability themes.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. Any complimentary remarks from Professor Geraldine, Antonio?
I would like to make a remark that's a nice presentation of Professor Maciel, but I would like to share with Geraldine that in Brazil we have an accreditation, a national accreditation, that's done by the Ministry of Education, but the Ministry of Education provides only the facilities, the travel expenses, all these things. So it's a peer review, and it's a very tough accreditation. It's not very far from AACSB or other accreditations. It's a very tough process. It's not easy to go, and it's a peer review. No, there is no official government that will share the knowledge, the feelings. So it's a peer review. Our colleagues do the evaluation of all courses for doctoral programs, master programs, and the undergraduate program. So it's a peer review, very strong, very strong. Also, when the students finish the undergraduate, it's required to have a written examination of the subject of his area before they receive the degree. So it's just for you to know. ANAMBA is a very good association. It's a private association like others private associations, but the real association is the Ministry of Education that gives you, for instance, the Umesh's school, the doctoral program can be from 4 to 7. If you are 6 or 7, you are international program. Umesh program is 7, so it means that it's comparable to one in Australia or in other place. The undergraduate can go from 3 to 5. If you have below 3, you cannot run the school. 2 or 1, you cannot run the school. So it's a very competitive, and we have a great experience on doing that. It's not perfect. Now, for the master's and doctoral program, we are moving to multi-ranking. Why we are moving to multi-ranking? Because sometimes the research, they are researching the value of the rock going to Mars, or they are researching the life of the bees. So they want that something returns to the taxpayer. So we are moving to this direction. That's very, very, very similar to what happens in Europe. In Brazil, mainly for the doctoral and master's program, publication is the goal, including dissertation, master's, and thesis. So, but actually, we have in place a very good system of peer evaluation, and we have more than 3,000 colleges and universities in Brazil, and we do that every 3 or 4 years. Undergraduate 3 years, and doctorate and master's every 4 years. Thank you, Umesh.
Yeah, that's a really interesting approach, more of a national holistic accreditation driven by the government, which would support very much institutions having sustainability as an ingrained part of their education. We haven't gone that far in Australia. We're only really getting to the point where the government is saying that we'll be net zero by 2050, I think was the announcement now, and there's some, as you know, some global meetings happening at the moment where they'll talk about how they're going to do that. But what we rely on, particularly at LaTrobe Business School, is the external accrediting bodies such as AACSB, but also EFMD, which is the European equivalent. And they have embedded in there three key areas of criteria. And one is the ESR, or corporate social responsibility, as a main assessment criteria, along with industry connection and internationalization of your programs. But they really help us focus in that particular ESR area. The other thing that we rely on is our rankings in sustainability areas, and Corporate Knights is another ranking system that that looks at responsible leadership and sustainability throughout our programs and courses that we run in education. So it's I guess in that sense, it's really up to the institutions to take responsibility to find those particular accrediting bodies where we can then say, okay, we've met those particular criteria. We haven't got a national body, like you were saying there in Brazil, that is making sure that the institutions are actually covering off across a number of those particular dimensions within the institutions as a way of practice. So very much a self-determined practice. And of course, we very much value our PRME championship, and we take that very seriously and use that as a way in which we can influence our colleagues to also make sure that they are focusing on sustainability throughout their education, whether it be in the finance area or right through in scientific components of their institutions as well.
Geraldine, we should do something, because in Brazil, we have about 50 to 60 million students, basic education and higher education. About twice the population of Canada goes to school every day. So you should have some control, because if you lose it, you cannot be up to the school, especially in a country like Brazil that's big, so big. So we are investing a lot of internationalization. In schools like Umesh's school, you have most faculty were got the doctoral degree abroad, most, and also have some international faculty and so on and so forth. So I'm just sharing this with you to because we are so far, so you can have a grasp of what we do in Brazil.
Thank you very much, professors. We are almost approaching at the end of the session with few minutes to round up. Well, I think we had a very interesting discussion starting from pedagogy, which really looks at considering the individual capacity of every learner on how to integrate sustainability. We also saw a very interesting example of Fernando de Noronha, which is a jewel of Brazil. And this example of petroleum companies not deciding to invest in it is a wonderful example of how companies are becoming much more proactive and decisive. And eventually, we also discussed about the role of accreditation agencies. So I think that kind of sums around different elements which are important. Just to end on that note, I finished my PhD on this topic, which was integrating sustainability in business schools, with one of the partner schools, Audencia. I was based in Audencia Business School for around 10 years, and then I moved to Brazil when FGV hired me back in Brussels. And something which I found in my thesis was that when we are talking about sustainability, there are a lot of non-traditional actors which we do not consider. How does a school itself becomes a living space for sustainability? If you are in a school which is imbibing, let's say, non-environment friendly materials, in many ways, the school is transmitting the fact that you have to take care of sustainability outside the school, but not here. As simple as it is, students will say, where are the wind turbines? Where are the solar panels? We need to see small signs of change within the school. And this is what actually some of the interviews in my dissertation responded. When I talk about non-traditional actors, as we speak, there are children striking outside the school with Greta Thunberg for climate change. These are non-traditional actors who have proven much more stronger to some extent than what Professor Antonio said. Researchers studying and might not have an impact really in the short term. And then also when I talk about non-traditional actors, I'm talking about historical reconciliation, which goes back to Geraldine's comment on linking the knowledge of indigenous traditions, learning from leaders from the history who have strived for social justice. Issues such as racism can be learned from the lives of Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Abraham Lincoln, Maya Angelou, which is again such a critical issue. It has an economic cost on the society. So I think these discussions also need to be incorporated in many ways, where schools can start moving in these directions. I think we are reaching a point where professors are not only having a hegemony, or neither the schools will have the hegemony on sustainability agenda. There will be children, there will be NGOs, and companies will take more proactive stance by the time the school decides outside this tight accreditation mechanisms, publish and perish world, who will be the leader? Which school will be the black swan? So that is the end closing remark, which I would like to say. Which school will surprise us, or which professor will surprise us by taking one dramatic stance for promoting education in sustainability? So with this in mind, I would like to thank all of you for your time, for interesting insights. As I see, we have a message here from the host to join us for the closing session, from the director of ISAE Brazil and the PI Management Institute in India. So I would request you to join this link right away. And with this, again, we end our session on time. Thank you very much for your knowledge sharing process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much.
It was very nice, very nice part of my morning. Maybe Geraldine would be in the noon, later afternoon, maybe.
No, it's 1 a.m. It's 2 a.m. in the morning here.
Oh, so good morning, Geraldine. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to go to the closing session, and thank you so much, Umesh, for chairing our session today. It was lovely to meet you too, Antonio and Alessandra. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you very much.
Umesh, what should we do to go to the closing session?
Professor, se podemos ir, basta clicar no link aqui, né? Nós podemos copiar esse link. Primeiramente, a gente precisa encerrar a sessão, mas copiar esse link na outra janela.
Tá. Ok. Muito bom. Thank you very much.
E a gente vai falar no Teams, tá? Eu acho que a gente precisa conversar.
Parabéns, você levou muito bem. Alessandra.